Okay, so let us get started. So yesterday we looked at a couple of things, small concepts. One is context managers, another is decorators, and then we also got started with uh, arguments, command line arguments. So things to remember in these things are, one is, let me write. In decorators, it's it's about enhancing the functionality. So in order to enhance the functionality, so we are trying to make use of one of the um, properties of Python. So in Python, everything is a object. So function is an object too. So you can pass around function. So similarly, if you have to do in C++, you have to pass around function pointers. So similar to that. But yeah, so since you can pass around functions as objects, so just like variables, so you can pass that function to another function, and then you can call that function inside yeah, this function. So, and also you need to return a function. So to do that, we are also keeping this function in another enclosure or closure, saying that that's a new function defined within the function itself. So that's the um, format that you need to remember, and you can try around examples. So idea here is to do something before calling the function and after calling the function. So that's the idea of decorators. So that is why it's called decorator. So examples that we saw is you can calculate time taken to execute that function. You can also put some logs saying that, okay, this function is getting called, beginning of this function, ending of this function, and so on. And in fact, in unit tests, we have already used that, and we got introduced to that. So the place where we used is the class method. So we made some of the functions class methods because you can access those functions outside uh, without instantiating the object. So it becomes like a static method. So that is about decorators. And we also looked at something called as context managers. Context managers are nothing but resource managers, sort of whenever you want to clean up something. In fact, you can implement that in decorators as well. But the clean way to do is because you have got a keyword called as with, and it makes it more readable, and it is meant to do such stuff like using those two functions, that is, I think, enter and exit. So you can define the class and then inside this redefine the those functions, I think, and then you can write your own logic. So what happens is when you go out of the scope within this particular when you use this particular block with block, so your cleanup function gets called. So that is how you clean up resources. This is mainly for cleaning up resources. So file closing, network cleanup, and yeah, any resource that you are using, you can use with. So you can think of it as the destruction or cleaning up. So yeah, that is about context managers. We also looked at introduction to command line arguments. The reason that we need command line arguments is to send parameters or variables in on the command line here. So how it works is so this is your shell. When the shell is spawned, it's a new process. This itself is a process, shell process. Let us call it P1. And who spawns this is underlying operating system. In this case, it's the OS. So once you run any command, so it spawns another process P2. Say for example, I do ls, which is listing of files. So it will run this program, which is in say user slash bin. It will start from the beginning of the file or main section of the file, and it will execute all the instructions. It will call the functions that it is programmed to, and it becomes a process. So and then it executes all the statements and then exits. So that is why it exits out of the command line. So you can also pass arguments, right? So how can you store these arguments is a feature provided by the shell. So shell stores these variables as uh, variables. So those variables are called shell, I think, arguments or something like that. So whenever you use dollar in on the shell, it is you're creating an environmental variables. So those are called environmental. You can create anything, like you can create hi is equal to like namaskara, something like this. So this becomes a variable. So this is a shell variable. So similarly, there are default shell variables which are used like this. So dollar zero is the program name itself. In this case, ls, and dollar one, dollar two, and so on are the arguments following that. So and then dollar star will give you all the dollar one to dollar two and dollar three. So that is how your shell is supporting the command line arguments. So how does Python access this? How Python can access this? There is a library called as sys, sys. So that particular library can get an access, because when you run Python program, it similarly shell spawns the Python program, and then it can access that particular terminals uh, command arguments, the environment environmental arguments. So hence, you can read those. How do you read this? Read those is by in a raw way. We can read like sys.arg, and then some you can access it like a list sys.args. So uh, this is how we can use it directly. But there are several, if you have to program your own arguments, you will have new features. For example, I want to for this particular calculate.py that we did in one of the classes, I may want to send something like calc, and I want to calculate two numbers, which is like variables for me. So I can pass around calculate.py, and I can say add, and I can pass two numbers, 10 and 20, say. So in order to implement this using sys, it will take a lot of time, because now you have three arguments to parse, and then you need to keep it in variable, and then you also need to check whether that argument has this hyphens, and then parse it, and so on. The program will grow bigger. So there are inbuilt libraries in Python where you can simply use them and have all the features that you require. So that is what we're going to see now. Okay, let me clear the drawing, exit out of this. Okay. So let us take a look at this. So this is what we did in one of our class. So I want to do something like, so when I do this, nothing is getting printed because I'm not calling anything in it. So I want to say uh, def main x and y. I'll take this arguments, and then if you have to um, pass some operation as well, kind of operation. So we'll have to write program like this, and then you'll have to write if operation is equal to matches with this, do this, and so on. You can do like this, or else you can also define if operation is add or add, or however you want, and then uh, call that add function, uh, and return that, and so on. You can keep writing this. This is main function. Okay. So let me just keep a default argument just for now, and then if I call main and 3 and 4, let's see what happens. Print it. I'm not printing it. Try to do work. Let me just get rid of this. Yeah, this is just to show you how we can you know call these functions in one of the functions, and you can also pass some argument, and let us see how we can take the arguments, and then we can uh, do the operation. So let me show you the library name. Library. So this is the raw way of picking it up, picking the arguments, sys.argv, and then this is already defined. So this is how you kind of pick it up. So if you want to use additional features, there's a library called argparse. So if you use this, so you get a lot of new functions. For example, okay, this is an easy example. Let me show you. So let us try to look at this code and try to understand what's happening inside. Okay, so this is a module, and then we are trying to initialize some. This looks like a class. So module, and within which there is a class which is um, implemented called argument parser. And then when we initialize or instantiate an object out of the class, you can also take some arguments. So you can, this is one of the arguments. So there are several arguments, but yeah, and this is how you can do it. So without this as well, you can call, because you're just creating the object. It depends on the implementation. And then you can keep on adding as many arguments as you want. So let us look at what this particular code does. It is, let me annotate so that it becomes easier to understand. So this is our module, which is already inbuilt module. You don't have to download this. It's already inbuilt. So this is the module, and you're creating an object called as parser in line number 4. So this is your object, and using this object, you are accessing the function called as add argument. So whenever we have an object is nothing but attributes of the functions, right? So one of the functions that it's implemented is our add argument. So what arguments are we adding? What are these things in order to understand? So this is the argument that we uh, want. It takes name, age, and grade. And what is the type of this? So when you store, when you try to extract this variable name, what should be the type of that? So when you give, say, type of that particular, so it will give that type. So similarly, age is integer. You can initialize like this. So by default, since if you had to do this to uh, define your own like automatically type convert using sys.argv, then you will have to write say your own store it in a variable, and then you will have to typecast that particular variable and do so many things. Like you should be adding help and so on. So these features are not available here. You will have to write your own code. But this is the advantage that you can use rparse and get this. So what is the use of this help is generally any uh, command line uh, uh, any executable which program that you use like ls or dir ps, it will have one argument which is called as help, and you can use it either hyphen h or help. It will give you like how to use this particular command and what is the input and what is output that you can uh, provide. Okay. So that is how by default you can uh, automatically get a help uh, when you use this. Okay. So this is the help string that prints out of that when you start using this program. And then there is one more argument called as a greet. So let us see what this store true means. So you can also store those variables uh, uh, in a variable and do some things. So, okay, now we have got these arguments passed or arguments initialized here, these three lines. In fact, we can have only one as well. So, but here we are having three just for the sake of how it works. So it helps us to understand. So this is one block. So when you read the code, so don't get overwhelmed because it's like 19 lines of code, and then you got you it feels like it's complicated. But generally, if code is well written, people would leave these spaces. The reason that they have spaces here is to help you read code in a better way, so that you come to know that okay, this is one block of code, this is another block of code, this is another that block of code. So just like reading newspaper, as I was explaining in other class, so you read block by block and try to understand, okay, this is doing add arguments at parser level, and this is we are calling that function. So how do we um, call so now we have initialized, and this is how you kind of invoke it. So there is another function which will parse those arguments. So where does this where does this function pass? Where does the input come from? This comes from the arguments that we've passed in on the command line, which is stored in on the environment, which is nothing but we can also access using sys.arg. So this accesses those arguments from the command line, and yeah, it uses it. How do you access those inputs? Are like this. So now you have got handle here, which has those variables, and you can use it instead of sys.argv. You can simply, this is part of object now. You can simply use arg.greet, args.name, args.age like this. So which is coming from here. Okay, so that is one of the um, advantages to use argparse. Let us see how it works so that you get an idea. This is a Jupyter notebook here. Okay, let me copy this because Jupyter notebook, it's difficult to pass command line arguments. And now you can see that if I try to execute this uh, directly from this run button, which is a shortcut to run. So it says that um, it gives help. You can see that. So where is this coming from? So this is coming from here. So we didn't define any help uh, ourselves, but where is it coming from? By this. So how can I make use of it? Okay. For example, Python, it is as good as running this. Okay. So for example, help. If I type help, so you can see that I got these things. So where are these kind of things coming from? You can now associate, right? So okay, these things are coming from here. The positional arguments are this, and these are coming from here because we added here, and optional arguments which are like this are coming from here, and help is by default. This is by default, it's a feature from that. And this particular string, whether to greet user or not, is coming from this help string. So when you type the command, now you don't have to write. If you had to write your own code to simulate this, probably it will run more than say 100 lines to parse this and have this sort of a action using those system level or environmental variables. So that is how this is sort of a neat way to simulate that. So okay, so that's about this. So let us try to use this where pass some answer. Let us see the behavior and then understand what's happening. And okay, let's see what is happening. So you can see that now it so we have it says automatically, it says that how to use. So if you pass any arguments which are like mandatory arguments, if you do not pass it, so it will also tell what is expected of out of this command. So this level of control is also provided by this. So let us try to get over this, and let us do this. Okay, this is not there. Sorry. Okay. So you can invalid int value Python. Name, age. Okay, I'm not doing anything wrong here. Okay, we don't have to pass name. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's it. So 40 read. Fine. Okay, just the great. Okay, so let me explain what's happening. So when we add this particular terminal, oh, okay, see, okay. So when we have this particular double hyphen, so it's like with this particular action. So what happens is you need to use those arguments and then followed by um, your uh, um, optional argument. So here we are not passing anything. We are not saying that take in another input, but greet just takes doesn't take anything in this here. So you can see that age, we don't have to pass age. So can let us look at help now. So it just gets stored there. So these are called positional arguments where you don't specifically say what is that, where does it belong to. For example, you don't have to type name. So it takes like a positional argument. For example, uh, read.py. So it tells these are the arguments. If I say hi, the first argument itself is the name, and second argument is the age. So these are called positional argument where you don't have, typically you will have something like um, name, hi, and then you can have age and something like this. So these are called as like optional arguments. So where you can specifically just for remembering, because it's difficult to remember the order of the arguments. So generally we name it. So, but this is just to show you how the positional arguments looks like, and then how the optional arguments looks like. So even if you do not, optional means even if you do not provide any input for grid, because here we are not using grid, still we are able to execute the program. So now greet is just a uh, so when you add greet, so it prints hello and so on. So this is an optional thing in this program. So that is the reason it's called as optional argument. So in fact, you can also pass um, additional options to this um, these particular command line arguments. Okay, so how do you pass those is explained here. So it's just using this object and add arguments. So there are multiple types of arguments. One is positional arguments. So by default, you get positional arguments, and when you use action store and use this, it becomes a optional arguments. And um, let us see what. Yeah. So you can see in this example. So what's happening here is the function name, and then there are two arguments, and you can also pass this value to this particular argument. So how does this get um, evaluated is from here. So by default, you take this as an argument and use that. So that is how you can also pass additional arguments. So when you start using it, you'll come to know. But just remember that this parser is taking inputs from sys variables and sys arg variables, and then you have features like for without anything, it becomes positional argument, and then it becomes you also have optional arguments. You can also pass argument for optional arguments. You can also pass some more inputs to that and so on. So you can use this. So there are different types of like there are more features into this. For example, you can also have choices. So reason when you have choices, the reason that you have choices is because you can restrict the operations into some argument to certain operations. So if you give anything else other than this, it will complain that okay, these are the only um, um, choices that you have. So yeah, it will say that invalid something like that. Yeah. So that is how these additional features come into picture. So you can read through this, but yeah, it takes like more than an hour to explain everything, but you get the idea. So you take arguments, and then there are different types of arguments. You can start doing that. We will use this in our project. So yeah, we'll look at this again. Okay, that's about command line arguments. So any questions here? Like, uh, unless you use it um, it's a question mark, and then you start using it. But understand the basic thing. So we are passing something on the command line, and then we are parsing that. So the way we parse is using this. So there is also another popular library called as click, click. So which does the similar thing. So you can use that as well. So here you can also make sub commands. Like you have a command, another command, and then those commands have their own arguments, and you can also group the arguments. For example, you can have mutually exclusive arguments. That means you can have arguments which needs to be used only with certain combinations and so on. So those are the things. So you can start doing that. So just remember this particular args, and how do we add arguments, and how do we like parse it. So basically it becomes variable inside this particular object. So that's it. That's the thing you need to remember, and there are other things which you can, yeah, you can try these practice exercise, you'll get hands on. Okay, so okay. So since we read about arc parts, so there are some common inbuilt libraries. This is just a, I'm not going to explain this in a deeper level. So there are common libraries that you can use while most of the times you'll probably when you're automating, you kind of use like directories, files, read those files, and so on. So those are the libraries which are like commonly used inbuilt libraries. So one of the popular ones is called as OS. So with OS, you can do a lot of things like list dir, which is, for example, yeah, just OS and then list dir. It will give a list of dirs, and dot is nothing but the current dir, and you can list all the things. So that is one of the examples. Yeah, you don't have to like remember this, but you can search in Google, you'll get this, but you need to be aware of what are the uh, functionalities that is provided by OS. So this is one library to remember. Uh, like you can check all the functionalities that is provided by OS is can be accessed through this particular OS library. So here in this case, it checks if directory is there, and if it's there, it gets created. So generally, when you are trying to say automate something, so you look for certain files, or if it's not there, clean up. Uh, you can clean it up, and then if it's not there, you can create a folder and then put all the results into that folder, and you can generate reports and then put in another folder, and so on. So in such case, you can use path exists and so on. And there is also okay, this is a similar function. There is also something called as sys. So I was explaining during the command line arguments. So sys provides system level functionalities, which are nothing but using like picking up the arguments from the shell. Like you can take environmental variables, command line arguments, and so on. So yeah, when you search, these are the things which appear on the in the results. So you should be aware that okay, sys is doing this. So yeah, we looked at argv, which is nothing but it contains all the command line arguments that we pass here, and you can access using this indexes. And okay, and yeah, that is about sys. So there are a lot of functionalities, like you can print versions. If you just do dir of sys, you'll get all these functions, but you don't have to remember. Just know that there is something called a sys. Sys is used for accessing the current environment. OS is used for OS level stuff like files, directories, and so on. And there is also a library called random. As the name suggests, you can generate random numbers, because if you have to write your own program for random numbers, it's difficult. So random has its own logic. There are like pseudo random numbers. It does some sort of calculation. It produces random numbers. So you can generate random numbers. Why do you need random numbers? Like you can create games. You can do some sort of say if you want to create files which are randomly named, you cannot think of any proper names. You can do random names and then create those files and get done with that. So make sure that it doesn't come again and again. So yeah, these are but there are libraries which are better in doing the random numbers are not unique. So remember that. So there is another, if you have to generate unique strings, there are different libraries. For example, there is something called as UUID. So where you get, I think, 20 character string, which is unique. So yeah, so that is also one of the libraries that is generally used, random. And there is math. We looked at date time yesterday, I think. So which you can deal with date and time. You can print them. You can convert those to strings. You can. Uh, I think it also has conversions. Yeah, time intervals. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, this is one of the ways that you can. So this reads from your time here, the system time. So there are a lot of different options here. And there is one interesting library called as RE. This we will look at it when we do the project as well. So RE is nothing but dealing with regular expressions. So what are regular expressions? You might already know. So given a string or a file where we can read them as string by string or line by line or word by word. So we can parse them and then we can look for certain patterns. For example, emails, phone numbers, and especially if you're doing log analysis, probably you wanted to search all the errors, filter all the errors. So you can just pick up lines which contains errors, fail, or anything like that, and then you can take those lines, and then on top of that you can do more actions. For example, you can find out whether these lines contain IP address, because it's a pattern. Like you have digit dot digit dot digit dot digit, such that format, and you can write your own expressions. We will look at this when you do a project. So yeah, these are the common libraries. I think there is also math, and so okay. Now we can take a look at, we never did anything with CSV files. And with CSV files, we will jump onto learning something called as pandas. It's a library used heavily in data science, and we can take a look at that. So it's just an introduction. We will deal with that more during the project time. So it is just an introduction, why it is there, and what is the structure that we are dealing with. Yeah. And okay, this is one of the coming back here. Subprocess is one of the common libraries where you can you can trigger a process. So as I was telling that there you have a shell, and then Python. When you invoke Python, it will trigger a process and so on, right? So you can also trigger a process yourself. So that is how you use this. That's the reason you can use. You have to use this particular sub process, and it will spawn the process. Yeah. So just be aware of it. Because if we start learning each one of this, it's not interesting, right? Because it's all on the need basis. So yeah, just be aware of this. Yeah. Yeah, these are the common ones to use. And whenever you're stuck with a problem, say there is a requirement where you have a lot of log files on your system. You need to take all of them, And along with those log files, there are other files as well, like configuration files and so on. And you want to pick up only log files and zip it, and then store it in another directory. So the thought process should be like, okay, how do I do this? So what is the pattern here? Okay, all the files, log files have say .log extension. So I should be doing something like ls star dot log, where it lists all of them. So how do I do it in Python? I can use OS library and then pick up, list out all the files in the directory, and then pick up the files which are ending with .log. So this should be your ideal uh, thinking. And then you know that, okay, OS does this, and then use it. And then you can copy that. So you don't have to remember the code or any function, because now you have got a line of thought. You can step by step write it down in comments, and then just search for the code, and then paste it here and get it working. So that is how you need to think. You shouldn't remember anything, because these things, you may be learning a new language, or you may be shifting to a different environment, and so on. Now we are working on Linux. You can work on Windows as well. So, but what these libraries do is they abstract. For them, it doesn't matter which operating system you are using. So OS dot say list dir will always list the dirs in your Python. So that's an abstraction that is provided by those libraries. Okay. Okay, so I was talking about CSV files. Okay, let's understand what is before a CSV file. Let us understand what is a tabular data. So this is, I downloaded it a while ago. So how does this? What is CSV? CSV is comma separated values. So we learned about JSON. We learned about XMLs, and those are structured in a way that it is in a tree format. So, but there are, so in day-to-day life, in your office, college, schools, we deal with Excel sheets, right? Because it's a tabular structured data. So what does that tabular structure data indicate is there is relationship with uh, this particular heading and the values. So it's like, rows and columns, and then you're dealing with that. So of course, there are libraries where you can put the data in Excel sheet and read. So this CSV is one of the easiest way to store the data, because it is just a text file. It is comma separated values. If you want to use Excel sheet needs a Excel program to open, right? So here it's just a text pad that it opens, and there are extensions which help us to uh, look at this data in a way that we understand. So this particular there is an extension called as rainbow CSV, which highlights the colors. If there were no colors, we cannot actually line it up in our mind. So yeah, that's about CSV. CSV is comma separated values. First line indicates the heading, just like in Excel sheet, and then rest of them. So this ID, this is the row, because that's the first comma. The second comma has these names, and third comma has this nationality and so on. So this is about how CSV file looks like. So how can you read by so there are uh, uh, different libraries. One of the inbuilt libraries in Python that you have is, you can also uh, search, but yeah, on top of my mind, I can do Python, uh, and just to show you, import CSV. So there is a library called CSV. Since I'm not remembering anything, so I can, how do you like uh, look at what are the things that it provides? You can see that, okay, there is RE, reader, and so on. So let us look at some function which we can use readily. Python CSV read. So this is the documentation of CSV. So this is how you kind of whenever there is a requirement or a problem to be solved, you look it up first orthodox of Python. So because this is a like a genuine uh, how to escape comma in the string or text. Okay, I'll answer that. Okay, so so this is the documentation of that particular CSV uh, library. So how do you read is like this. So import CSV and open, just like we used JSON. It's similar to that. With open something like this, you can do like this. So let me just use this. So it takes in like this. Okay. Let us try to. So now I have read the document. So let us try to write a program in that. So let me create a new file. Create CSV.py. So generally, while dealing with CSV files, you don't usually deal like this. But this is an introduction to like data frames. Why those data frames are there, and how it helps us to parse this sort of data. So you have got CSV, and you can take this. Either you can copy paste or directly. So you can click on this. It becomes like this. So it opens a file and it passes a file parameter here. So let us try to do that with open and the file name. File name is here. So either I can copy the path, or since it's in the same directory, you don't have to copy the path, but I'll do it. So this is the path. And as FD, you can, since it's a file descriptor, we call it as FD. So if you had to, like, let me just, I'm not using any CSV inbuilt functionality till now. Let's see what are the contents and how it looks like, so that we appreciate future libraries. So you can see that CSV library without using CSV library. So this is how it looks like. So this looks neat, and you know we are able to read because there is an extension which helps us to read this. Okay. But if there was no extension, so it will have line by line without highlighting. But how does programs read it when the program we wrote a program which wherein we read that text file, and we are reading line by line. So it gives each line in one you know one shot, like, yeah. So this is, and separated by new lines. So we saw this while reading one of the files, right? So new lines are nothing but the ending of the line. So next line. Okay. So this is how it looks. So now let us try to make use of this particular CSV reader. So let us understand what is a delimiter and uh, while doing this. So this variable is not there. So that is a variable. This takes in uh, I'll have some variable. Okay, this is a reader, and he's looping through that reader. And let us see how it what a reader prints. So I'll comment this because we don't require. So I just wanted to show how it looks, and with this library, how it looks. So what is this RD? So whenever we read something, we get some sort of a pointer. So this is an object. So this object needs to be iterated because probably it is an iterator. So for say element, or let me say line probably in RD. So let us look at how it, yeah, it's correct. Print line. Now let us look at the output. Now you can see that instead of blurting out everything in one shot, like when we used without using the CSV library. So now we have got reasonably parsable content, like line by line, and we have got no new lines ending with like slash n, and we have got these things uh, in a more structured way. So each of this. So now, if we have to see what is the heading of this, you should know the first line, right? So let me. So first line will contain header always. So that is how the CSV is defined. So first line is, so we cannot access like that. It looks like. Okay. Yes, you can print just the first line. In fact, it is getting printed in somewhere in the beginning, I guess. Yeah, here. So this is the heading, and yeah, if you have to match this yourselves, like I want to get, say, uh, third row, that particular, say, city, let us say. So if you look at this third row or the fourth row, which is named as third, say I can go, because we are humans, we are trying to parse through all the colors because there is nationality, and I can easily look at nationality. And if I want city, I can look at, okay, this is like Castro value here, here, some city, okay, in Brazil. I can pronounce it. So, okay, so that is how we kind of went into like a tabular data, right? So this is zeroth rows, first row, second row, and so on. And fourth row, it contains this, and the column wise city contains this. And so this is something which we already do in Excel sheet. So this is how we, like, programmatically we can do it like this. And how to access these particular each one of these elements is, you can read through uh, this document. Like, you can say that in you can just get that particular element like this, and then you can print. So this is how it looks, and this is how it we can make use of CSV library. But uh, there is also a better way to do this. How can we read in such a way that it helps us to be able to parse in just like in Excel sheets. So how does it look? So this is a lightweight library, and you can use this. But generally, whenever we deal with CSV, this is a great library, but we also have a better library which can deal with a lot of different formats. So let us understand what is that library, and how it works. Okay. So that library is called as pandas. You might have heard it in various places. So let us get an introduction to pandas. Let us look at here. So this is how you kind of read, because I already know a little bit. So whenever you sort of now you know the mental image of what you want to deal with, and you know the library, Python pandas, say intro. So uh, you, either you can go into like these websites. Better thing to do is go to the official version. So that is a lot better. So you can use this to um, libraries. So these two libraries are by default, they are not present. So let me see if there is this library, whether I have installed or not. Okay, it's not there. So how do you install a library? So we know that we can use pip install, and then we can use. And what is the library that provides us pandas, right? So I know, like, you can do install pandas, but if you have to do it to yourself, how do you proceed? Python pandas pip install. Okay. So this is how you kind of because sometimes what happens is the library names will be different and the installation will be different. So in this case, in our case, it's the same thing. So I can simply paste this, and you remember we have created the virtual environment for this. So install it. So it installs a lot of dependent packages, and now we can get into it, and let us see if it's time. Okay. So I have imported that. So if you just do so, what is this as keyword do? In our class where we studied about modules, we looked at this as, so this is an alias. So you can simply import pandas and keep typing pandas dot something's like the functions and attributes inside that, or else you can create a shortcut. Like this is like universal shortcut for pandas, especially this is, you can name it in anything. This is an alias. So if you just do there of pd, you can see that there's a lot of functionality here. So let us look at what is pandas and what is the data that it sort of deals with. Okay. So So let us try to. So the reason I'm like doing this is you should be able to do it yourself. Like how do you explore in an explorative way? You can. So it got. We will get introduced to something called as data frame. Okay. Yeah, okay. To do this, you also need NumPy. I hope it's there. It's not there. If it's not there, we need to install that. Oh, it's there. Okay. Sometimes this terminals doesn't support, it doesn't format in a way that we want. Copy, paste. So what we did is there is a, so function or an it looks like a function, but maybe it's a class. So there is something called a series where you can just, it's like a list. So far we have looked at list, right? So it's a list. So it takes in some sort of list and gives this format. So where is this 0, 1, 2, 3 coming from? And what does this uh, indicate? So let us see what is the type of S. So you can see that this is S is of type series. So what is a series? Series is just like a list, but it has a lot of other functionality. So this is like you're creating one row. So that is how you can remember one row in an Excel sheet. So it's just one row here. Okay. So let us look at other things. And yeah, it's a they're doing a similar thing. Okay. So there are other functions you can look at it later. But yeah, what is a data frame? So this is an introduction to like what is a data frame. Let me paste it here. Okay, it doesn't get. Oh, it's not in a format that we want. How do I copy this? There should be some toggle button. Okay, so let us understand this, and yes, it's the same thing that we are going to do here. So what's happening here is we are creating a data frame. So data frame is nothing but like a sheet that you create in Excel sheet. So you have columns and then you have corresponding uh, values. So column name and the value. So when you display that. So it gets displayed like this. So values and the columns. So how do we, let us try to read the CSV file and look at how it outputs as a data frame. So you can just pandas read CSV. So so you can choose it, and you can see this is the code, just one line of code which helps us to parse it. Now let us go back here and use this. I've just pasted that. Okay. So let me get rid of this. So I need this file path. I'll print just df so that let's try to understand how it outputs. Sorry, let me get out terminal. So you can look at the output. So now we understood what is a series and what is a data frame. A data frame is just like an Excel sheet. So there are series inside that because each row is a series. So if you look at this particular output, so you can see that the header is aligned here in the output, just like a table. You can read it on the terminal, and there are indexes automatically given, and it's neatly aligned. So this is one of the features that pandas provide. So that is, and there are several operational functions. Like for example, you can take average of all of this, and probably take all of these numbers and sum it up. So things like that. So this is how the data frame looks like. And when you output, this is how it looks like. So in fact, there are several functions which you can convert it to a string. You can in fact dump this into an Excel sheet. In fact, you can, instead of reading in CSV, you can also do pd dot read XLS. You can actually read Excel sheet. But if you use raw or basic modules like XLSX, CSV, and so on, if you use those, you will have to, like for printing, if you just print, it will blurt out everything. So in this particular data set, actually there are hundreds of lines. So you can see that this smartly puts these dots, saying that there are more rows here, and prints last few rows and first few rows. So that is how you sort of get an op- handle to work with tabular data within using pandas. So this is just an introduction to data frame. We will look at more in the project, and I will jump more into that. So we'll do some project where we deal with data frames, and we can also draw some graphs and some sort of operations on top of it, and then we'll learn this a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, that's about. Yeah, we started with CSV to help you to understand like how it looks like, and then how you can parse it. So how to escape comma in the string or text? Okay, so there was a question. How to escape? Okay, but he's not there. Yeah, anyways, I'll try to explain. So if there is a comma, you can use backslash to escape, or in a string you can say r and then use quotes, so it becomes a raw string, so you don't have to use backslash. So either as a raw string or backslash. So yeah, that's it for today's lesson. So this is just an introduction to so various libraries and the concept of data frame. Okay, so we will learn from tomorrow. I wanted to start with project today, but we spent a lot of time in this in these concepts. Yeah. So tomorrow we'll start with the project, and these things will help. We'll learn automatically. We'll use all these things in a project. So we'll come to know like how we can use it. Like, okay, yeah, that's it for today's class. This is more about using the existing libraries. So yeah. Okay, any questions? Okay.
Thank you, Digant.
Yeah.
Digant, there was another question. I mean, it's something to do with the data itself.
Okay. Sure.
Uh, at, at, at some point, could you please also cover how to fetch the data using APIs or
Yeah, it's there.
even from
Yeah, it's there.
the data lake or yeah.
Yeah. So during the project, I'm planning to connect to some server and get some JSON files and then download it and then parse it and do something. So that will cover that. So to get something from.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Digant.
Yeah.
Thank you.